The myth of peak performance.
It's one where you fully focus, time seems to stop, you feel great. Here's the problem, you can't make it happen.
What's different about motivating teams?
You want the team to have ownership, you've got to give them skin in the game. It's all about peaking for those championship moments, and you might stray into burnout territory.
Are there any tips on how we can turn that around?
You get pelted with small toy animals.
You wanted to talk?
Yes, congratulations! You've hit our peak target for the week.
Well, it took years off my life, but I hope it was worth it.
Yes, of course. Now let's do it again next week.
Huh?
We're just getting started. We want to keep the momentum going, right?
Yeah, of course.
That's the spirit.
Well, it took nights and weekends, but I got it done.
Yes, totally incredible. You peaked again.
Same thing next week, right?
See, the thing is, I geared up to perform that way, but I can't really keep up that kind of...
Keep up? What do you mean, keep up?
Never mind. Let's hit that peak again.
That's the spirit.
Well, we did it. We peaked again.
Hi, this is Jill Wilfong, Chief Marketing Officer for Korn Ferry, and this is Briefings, our deep dive into leadership. When we last looked, more than 80% of S&P 500 companies were beating their quarterly earnings estimates. But the pressure to keep up this level of performance may be taking a serious toll on workers. A recent study of roughly 10,000 full-time desk-based workers across 6 countries found that over 4 in 10, almost half, said they're burned out. It's a problem that keeps getting worse. So, what can leaders do about all of this workplace weariness? Do they simply stop expecting employees to perform at their absolute best each day? What if I told you the answer is yes? Today, we explore why as we unpack the myth of peak performance. Let's start with someone who's researched and written extensively about this topic, Dan Goldman, psychologist and author of New York Times bestseller, Emotional Intelligence. His new book, Optimal, was the inspiration for our discussion today. Dan, it is a pleasure to have you on.
Jill, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
When it comes to top performance, Dan, you've talked about the so-called flow state that many of us have heard of, and the perhaps less well-known optimal state. How do you define each of those, and what's the difference between the two?
Well, flow was discovered by researchers at the University of Chicago who asked people, tell us about a time you outdid yourself. It was like your best performance ever. They asked ballerinas, chess champions, basketball players, neurosurgeons, all kinds of people. And it turned out that the inner state was always the same, no matter what the domain. It's one where you fully focused, time seems to stop. You feel great. However, here's the problem with flow. You can't make it happen. It's as though you're graced. It happens to you.
You in the past have talked about research out of Harvard Business School, which followed 12,000 journals that professionals kept every day that logged their feelings about their work life. How did that work lead you to develop this connection between employees reaching this optimal state and better outcomes for companies?
What we found was that when people were having a great day, that optimal day, companies were happy. And they're happy because they're getting the results they want because people are performing at their best. So it's really 2 different lenses on the same optimal performance.
is the one.
That's a famous scene from The Matrix where Keanu Reeves' character Neo has his peak moment and realizes his full potential. But that's something too hard for many people to do every day. And Dan, your new book says that emotional intelligence, something you popularized 2 decades ago, is actually the key to being your best every day. Can you speak to how that works? I want to reach my optimal state. So how do we actually get there?
One of the easiest ways, the best paths into the optimal state actually is concentration, focus, bringing your full attention to what you're doing right now. And in the brain, that has 2 effects. One is you do your best work when you're fully focused, you're not distracted. The second is the same part of the brain calms you down. So you're calm and clear and you're performing at your best. So it's not like taking a pill like in the movie and being at your best. It's something we each can do to help ourselves get into that good state.
Interesting. So are there strategies that leaders can implement to help employees really strengthen that ability to focus? Are there some tricks to that?
Well, I would say the first thing you can do as a leader is use your own self-awareness. How are you getting results? You're driving people? Tune in. Use some empathy and see how you're behaving as a leader. Because I've asked people around the world, tell me about a boss you hated and a boss you loved. Tell me one quality that made them so good or so bad. And basically the boss people love tunes in, is empathic, is supportive, inspires them, and manages their own emotions well. Essentially, that's emotional intelligence.
The modern workplace is set up with so many ways to foster collaboration. Meetings and brainstorming sessions, Zooms and Slack channels, email, instant messaging, so many tools to help us work closely together. And aspects of this are great, but we're doing more collaborative work than ever before, and the problem is it's overloading us.
That's collaboration pioneer and author Rob Cross talking about how teamwork can often be less productive than we'd like these days. Dan, you've cited research that shows that teams can have kind of a group level emotional intelligence, and it's important to establish emotionally intelligent norms or behaviors to get the most out of group interactions. Do you have any examples of what these norms might look like in a collaborative workplace setting?
Absolutely. Of course, this comes from the work of Vanessa Druskat, who's looked at high-performing teams for decades now. And what she means by norm is an agreed-on way of behaving. And one of the norms, for example, might be we're going to listen people out instead of talking over them or interrupting them. And at one branch of a creative consultancy, IDEO, if you break that norm, you interrupt someone, you get pelted with small toy animals. You know, it's just a fun way of reminding people, hey, oh, yeah, right, I'm breaking that norm.
Dan, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. I do want to make sure people can get your book. The title again is Optimal, How to Sustain Personal and Organizational Excellence Every Day. Dan, can you tell us where we can grab that book?
That book is everywhere there are books sold, including online. You can go to my website, danielgoldman.info, I-N-F-O, to find out more.
Perfect. Thanks for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We've heard about the philosophy and research beyond optimal performance. After the break, we'll speak to an Olympic silver medalist sprinter who will give us the inside track, pun intended, on what it takes to perform your best, both on the world stage and at work. Stay tuned.
Hi, and welcome to The Break. I'm Rupak Bhattacharya, and here's a quick look at what else is happening in business from Korn Ferry's This Week in Leadership.
The weight loss drug boom has created a battle over coverage.
43% of organizations say they will cover weight loss drugs this year, up from the 25% that already do. But with companies already facing a 5 to 8% jump in healthcare costs this year, experts say coverage policies for weight loss are likely to vary widely across companies.
Very, very powerful, very intelligent artificial intelligence is coming.
A new study shows that 1/3 of employees across all age ranges say they've received better career advice from artificial intelligence than from their managers. Among Gen Zers, almost half feel that way. Experts say this may stem from the lack of interaction between employees and managers due to remote work.
Where do we stand with the state of remote work right now? Because it seems kind of messy.
In yet another wrinkle to return to office mandates, a new study indicates that high-performing employees are twice as likely as average employees to consider leaving an employer that imposes a strict return to office policy. Leaders continue to say they see overall productivity increases when workers are in person, but still need top performers to lead the way. For more insights on business and leadership, head to kornferry.com/insights. Now back to Jill and our episode on the myth of peak performance.
There's been a lot said and written about the 400 metres in the last couple of weeks, and you've probably been sitting there reading it because you've sneaked in nice and quietly to be unheralded, but within a great chance of a medal here if your injury stands up.
It's great for me. There's no pressure on me at all. Only the expectations I put on myself and people who know me well. So, you know, I've got very high ambitions here, and hopefully they'll come true.
With us now is Mark Richardson, a Korn Ferry senior client partner who focuses on culture transformation and top team performance, and who also happens to be an Olympic silver medalist. Mark, thanks for joining me.
It's an absolute delight. Thanks for having me.
Of course. That last clip featured you hot off of a great performance on the track at the 1997 World Championships. For races like those, you obviously strove for peak performance, right? Your absolute best. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you achieved that in training? Did you pace yourself so that you were at your very best during the actual competition, or is there some other trick to making that happen?
Yeah, high performance sport, particularly something like track and field athletics, is all about peaking for those big moments, those championship moments. And you start thinking about, well, what's the training cycle need to be? How do you manage your intensity? How do you optimize your workload so that you're creating the conditions, both physically and mentally, to be at your sharpest and at your best when you most require it, i.e. in the final, hopefully.
Very good. We just heard from a leading researcher who says that especially in business organizations, it's better not to strive for peak or what some people call flow state performance, because it's unpredictable, can be unsustainable. And basically he's saying you can't try to win a silver medal every day. Instead, his research is saying leaders should encourage what he calls optimal performance, meaning basically using emotional intelligence to make sure that workers have a good day every day. Did you find that you had to change what top performance meant when you went from the sporting world into a business environment?
Yeah, actually, I think there's lots of similarities and crossovers. So I might change the language slightly and start using the term self-regulation. So what I notice about high achievers actually in business or in sport, they have the ability to self-regulate. And by that, their emotional intelligence, they have that emotional awareness to understand what their capacity is and how you best optimize and manage it so that actually you can show up and be at your best more consistently.
Now, I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you. Hell yeah. You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're gonna do the same for him. Hell yeah. That's a team, gentlemen. Hell yeah. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
That's a rousing speech delivered by Al Pacino that I think many of us know quite well in the movie Any Given Sunday, as he tries to motivate his team to win. Mark, in the business world, when it comes to pushing teams to be their best, how does that approach differ from simply trying to motivate one person? What's different about motivating teams?
I don't think leaders can motivate people, because for motivation to be long-lasting and true, it needs to come internally. So how do they create the conditions where their people feel inspired? How do they create the conditions where their people feel as if the investment of their time and their energy, which is going to be significant, is pointed towards something that's going to make a difference. A difference to what? And the more that you can amplify that, the more that you can create this sense of identity around that, then actually you create the conditions whereby people will start to really challenge each other. They'll expect brilliant performance. They'll demand it of each other. And that's when you've got a really strong, high-performing team.
Mark, this has been quite a journey, this whole concept around peak performance, how it may really be about pacing yourself, whether it's to win an Olympic medal or just deliver on a project. Mark, where do you keep that medal? I'm curious. Where is it hanging in your house?
Yeah, it's not hanging. It's in a really dull place. It's in an overly practical case on a chest of drawers in our bedroom. So, yeah, super dull.
Well, congratulations on that. And congratulations to all of us that get to learn from you from that experience. Thanks for being with us here today.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
The executive producer of Briefings is Jonathan Dahl. Today's episode was produced by Rupak Bhattacharya, Nadira Putri, and Teresa Allen, and it was edited by Jaron Henry McRae. It contains reporting by Russell Perlman, Ariane Cohen, and Peter Loria. Our video segment contains original artwork by Fraser Milton, Haley Kennel, Jonathan Pink, and Sasha Kotschik. Don't forget to read our magazine, available at newsstands and at kornferry.com/briefings. That's it for Korn Ferry Briefings. I'm Jill Wiltfong. See you next time.
What trophies are those, Jill? Excuse my ignorance.
Oh, Emmy Awards and...
They're actually Emmy Awards?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not an Olympic medal.